Hi, Weola. I'm so excited to be back. I've been gone, sort of integrating and going within and unfocusing for quite some time. And I've been receiving a ton of answers and clarity. And I was like, okay, so what would inspire me to join? Because this feels more like a little bit of the question vibration, mixing it up with others and going outside of sort of my sphere of bliss, which I've been on. And I realized that it's for the expansion of the message, of the thoughts that I've been receiving. So I'm really looking forward to this expansion with all of you, all of this high vibrational beings and everything that's going on here. So it's like super powerful. So I'm so happy to join you guys again. And so on this topic of abundance, I would love to expand on this notion I've had for quite some time about where I stand as an evolved being, more blended being, observation from evolved, more expanded place leads me to a different perspective and point of observation, and therefore an evolved desire. So this desire for abundance is no longer seen as it often is through the eyes or the reflection of others, such as, look at me, look what I've accomplished, look what I have, I've made it, or confident because I have this and I have that. But it's more in terms of this unity with my whole being and wanting to feel more like that and associating it with that stance on abundance and on all levels. So I'd love to expand on that perspective of evolved desires, inspired desires, creation, and having the support for all of this creation, and feeling more like inner being like.
So, as you're bringing these beautiful words to the forefront, we wanted to bring to your attention a couple of things. Even when you feel like the step in that direction for you to feel more abundance is to fill up the context of doing it so others can see it, so others can get inspired by it, or so others can acknowledge it. Usually that variety of people around you, and then wider and wider and wider. We want to bring to your attention that feeling you have never really done because of anyone else. Because in putting things for someone else to see, in engaging with others to give that recognition or to pay attention to what you're having going on, is where you're activating more questions. So when you see brilliant creators going about it, sometimes even bragging about it, sometimes even saying how amazing they feel about their creation, sometimes really saying that I wanted this for quite some time and I got it, I wanted this car and then I got it, I want this house and I got it, I wanted this lifestyle and I got it. In other words, when you're talking about that experience of what you have achieved, that is always in a vibration of question. You sometimes might feel that your feeling of satisfaction that you're feeling about talking about those things is really about others and interacting with others, but it's always only about you and about your own integration of your own experience of ease, satisfaction, bliss, love, appreciation, and so on. So, as we often say, in a place of focus, interacting with others, there is vibration of question that prompts you to get to the place of seeing more of that ease, seeing more of that place of satisfaction, seeing more of that appreciation, seeing more of that abundance. And then as you go and discuss it with others, or as you go and observe others, or as you go and brag about what you have done with others, you stir up the new set of questions, new set of so many questions that gets you to see more abundance and more abundance and more abundance. So this feeling that you have about steadiness, this necessity of that you might have felt before, which oftentimes is the place of context. If you achieve, share it because you want to show to others. If you achieve, share it so others can get inspired. if you achieve, then go and keep that achievement in the focus and in a conversation so others see you. In other words, those are all external ways that are bringing you to experience more of your discovery process, more of your discovery path that you're having as your tipping point from your question to answer and from your answer to question. So what you're really talking about is that you feel so much more ease about getting to the feeling of abundance. That from those questions you've been having so far, you've gotten pretty good at getting the place of tipping the point into place of seeing that abundance, because navigating more deliberately in a way that suits you whenever you want, you now have developed the muscle of how to get yourself, or how long to stay in a vibration of question and get yourself into the place of vibration of answer. And now it's time for you to choose also when is the time to open up the door for another question. For as questions are coming regardless, it is just a matter of, are those questions going to be shown to you from a place of your unfocused bumping into them, or are you going to get yourself from the place of ease and satisfaction and that easy abundance of not needing anything but having that easy experience of satisfaction to open the door for the new question? For at that time, you're really having a conversation like this. I know that I'm getting now into the place of ease. I know that I got myself with so much focus through all those questions and with easy tipping point to see these answers. I love the feeling that I'm having right now. And I know that the feeling that I'm having right now is going to last for as long as I choose to stay unfocused. But I also know that I'm not unfocused at all times. I know that I'm not even holding my unfocus for sometimes longer than minutes or tens of minutes, or maybe if I'm in a deepest state of meditation or appreciation for hours, but I know that I'm constantly dancing in and out. So as I'm feeling so satisfied, so abundant in knowing that I really do not need anything, that all of my needs are really taken care of, and now that I'm dancing only between my wants and seeing my wants. We have not said it this way before, but you're really dancing not between your needs and what you want. You're really dancing between wanting something and having that into your experience. So as you allow yourself to go to that place, you say to yourself something like, I know that as I go from this blissful, easy, unfocused state, that some variety will come through. I know that that variety will prompt me to ask questions, sometimes even to get me in a place of slight discomfort. But I know that I have the power to tip that point to the other side to see the new answer and the new answers at all time, because I know that I'm the one tipping the points of my own creation, not tipping the points in changing creation. My creative process is always the way it is. It is question, tipping point, answer, tipping point, question, tipping point, answer, tipping point. But I know that I can get myself to dominantly see this tipping point, answer, and this tipping point, and stay in a question just long enough to stir it up, just long enough to stir that question up enough so I can go and look for more answers. Because I know when I go to look for more answers, that feeling of those answers is never the same. It is always fuller, because every time I ask the question and everyone else asks the question, everything that exists part of me and all of us gets to be completely reconfigured. So where it gets to get so reconfigured, I reap the benefits of experiencing it, its newness and newness and newness. And I know that that is the reason why I love this beautiful question answer dance. So as I get to be more deliberate about getting myself from questioning to the answer, I also know that I can be more deliberate and more purposeful and do it more on purpose when I open the door for the new question. And that softness in transition from that place to another allows me to really experience my physicality to its fullest.
That's so stunning, and I'm so appreciative of the clarity of the thoughts that are flowing through you. This idea of bumping into the questions, that's exactly what I've been experiencing, because what I see is me in unity, like in the ocean. You guys talk about the waves. And I feel the question, like I ride the wave, as you guys said, but I'm still in the unity of that ocean and that ease. I don't want to jump out into the sand and with all this, struggle and resistance. I want the question to come to me and
that will happen only
ease.
at one time. That will happen not at one time, but only from one perspective. We're really now splitting hairs here with you. And what we want to talk to you about is that at that point in time, the only time you might feel like you crash into the sand is if you expect that you will never leave the wave, that you will never get to the place to interact with others. In other words, this wave of question, answer, dance that comes through in this ocean that you're moving through, you also know that sometimes you get to experience that sand and that you deliberately sometimes navigate yourself to the place of asking the question. In other words, getting onto the shore, asking the question and going back into your own tipping point of movement through. In other words, we're mixing up your analogies and our analogies over here, but what we're really looking forward for you to see and to hear even more is that on that side, in order for you not to bump into the shore sometimes, that will happen only when you know that your occasional, quite often, at all times, asking of question is inevitable and really quite the most stunning part of your creation process, equally stunning part of your creation process as experiencing that ease.
So I know that this idea of, let's say, to keep it in the topic of abundance, is all of this is a discovery of me. When you speak of discoveries, moving more towards who I really am and expressing in specific ways in physicality. So in terms of shifting limiting beliefs about money and, let's say, scarcity mindset, or going back to Lindsay's conversation about seeing money more like air that flows in and out, and the things that are in the way of that, I want to be able to do that in a softer way, more like a dance, as you guys say, than, being very harsh and abrupt about it and facing the resistance.
We're excited to talk to you about this, but we would like you to be more specific. Be as specific as you can. Talk to us about specific abrupt situation that you would like to smooth out.
No, well, I noticed that I have a ton of limiting beliefs when it comes to abundance. And
start with one.
I'm wondering if it's...
the one that is most active, because there is really no such a interesting and satisfying way for you to recognize the system that you might know in other topics by choosing one of them that might be even the most active. This is a steady place for you where you can share one of them.
The strongest one, and I'm gonna, because I wanted to ask you guys about Tesla. So all of us are these creative geniuses, but the ones who are here gathered are conscious creative geniuses for sure. And my most significant limiting belief about money is that I can manifest the ease and all the things I need for my creative expressions. They come to me, they flow to me. All of that is completely in alignment. But things outside of that, like Tesla, I was going to talk about him. He would manifest anything he wanted for his inventions. He only cared about the money, and I think he only cared about his inventions, not so much about the money itself and things outside of his creative expressions. And I feel like I'm very much like that in a lot of ways. So I'd love to get Tesla's perspective, where he stands in his now, about this. He used to talk about free energy. Does he still feel the same way that it has to be free? Or where does he stand now? What are his views on this idea of money and abundance outside of creative expressions and inventions?
To have a creative expression and invention, and to eliminate the questions along the way, money and abundance being the questions too, would defy the odds. In other words, there will always be something to be a pebble in your shoe, so your creation can be more and more and more brilliant. In other words, everything that you're experiencing is at all times in this place of satisfaction on the path of discovery, in the place of all of those inventions that were requiring so much money sometimes, that are requiring certain things for you to experience. You have the opportunity to have so many of iterations of those variety of experiences in your mind that then when you go into the practical thing, you do not require a lot of money for your experiences. In other words, you can sort all of those things out in that way. So your feeling of satisfaction never comes from a particular outside interaction or integration with someone else. It always comes from your internal feeling of that. So whatever is going to stimulate that feeling, whatever kind of, you can even say lack of something, or whatever even kind of adjustment of something that you want to feel fuller and fuller about, prompts you to have more and more of those experiences. So we want to be even more specific with you. What else is that you really want to talk about here?
Well, I think I just maybe I didn't articulate it well enough. It's this idea that I can attract the circumstances and events and all the cooperative components that will bring things together for my creative expressions, for the things that want to be like thoughts turning to things. All of that can come to me in different ways, in vibration, becoming, this person here, this meeting here, this thing here. But it's all tied into this creation, this specific creation. But outside of that, like money in and of itself, like it has a purpose. This is what I'm saying. It has a purpose. Everything that's necessary for that particular purpose is there. But money as an ephemeral thing that just flows into the bank account just for the heck of it, just to be there, I just don't see it. I just see it associated with something, whether it's a desire to do something. Let's say I want to travel. Okay, if I want it, it's done. But just money, just by itself, I just don't see it. Can you talk about
what
that?
makes you believe?
Does that make sense?
What makes you believe that money is there piled by anyone just because of that? What makes you believe that money is there to just be there and not have any use? In other words, every time you have something that comes through that you have associated with, or you're giving intention to it. You're giving intention about something that you're saving for. You're giving an intention, something you're spending for. You're observing others that are investing into this business. You're observing others that are investing in that business. In other words, there's always meaning to it. We often like to refer to money as your attention currency, as your vibration currency in that sense. And it's only attention exchange in that kind of thing, and you valuing in a certain way based off of what you have going on and how you want to interact your own worth at that particular moment. So we know that you like concepts. Kosta will be your best friend on this, but we really want to have you go and ask a very specific question. As you say that creation comes easy to you, as you say that you can find these synchronicities through your place of ease, what is the question about money that feels like a pebble in your shoe?
That I guess I don't have, here's the thing, I guess it's this fluctuation between me. I have the ability to go into that unity, into the ocean, and get this broad perspective that everything is just vibration. And if I want it and I believe it and I line up with it, it's done. But then every now and then, it's this.
Do you have the same belief when it comes to money? Do you feel when you get into the place of everything that exists, does topic of money throw you off of that? Is topic of money that exception that still keeps you searching?
No, not quite. It's just a matter of the dance between me knowing what to do about it and in the moment experiencing it. It's like what comes to mind is, for instance, honestly, what I wanted to know is, you know how Tesla died poor, and that but he was able to do all of his inventions and expressions. I think he must have had some limiting beliefs about money for
He
that to
did not
happen.
care
And
about
that
money.
He didn't care about
He
money.
did not care
He
about
did
the
not
money
care.
in that sense, because he understood that money is only one of the tools, one of the many tools that he was looking for in order to play. He wanted to play, he wanted to discover. He realized that actual money and the place of money got him so consistent in his brilliance that it motivated him, it inspired him to get so brilliant, to have less and less and less and less iterations of trial and error, and more of that doing in his own mind. The brilliance about money around that time was that he really wanted to create so much more, and that's why, because he was in that situation of observing in his relationship about caring or not caring with it, getting to the place of seeing more and more of his inventions come to life, and so many more of them for decades and years and hundreds of years in the future to come through. But what we want to bring to your attention is, you mentioned that someone has died poor. Where would they go with that money? Where would that money that's piled up without intention, all of the money that came through and had intention and showed itself into the interest that this particular person or you are having, is coming through at that point? Finishing one physical iteration in what you call poor, or not taking care of anyone else afterwards, or not leaving so many things behind. In other words, this movement is happening at all times. We do not see much better example than what you just imagined of someone living so satisfyingly their physical iteration and bringing and blossoming into reality so much potential for others, while really focusing only on a discovery.
That's so beautiful, and that's exactly what I was. Yeah, that's the clarity I wanted. I wanted the confirmation of that, because that's kind of how I feel. To me, money is just air or energy. I mean, if I associate my limiting beliefs, it's only when I go into that question vibration, but I can shift it so easily. I don't really have it, like, in a way, limiting belief about money. I guess it's because of what the culture and mass consciousness feels about money, that it's something that has to be accumulated and used as a way to prove worthiness and value.
Also you allowing that
creation.
context, and also you allowing that context to sometimes be dominant within you and sometimes not. So sometimes that serves you. Sometimes having that as a belief serves you, because at that time you're asking questions. You're asking questions why more and more people, or less and less people, are looking to do this, and why am I still sometimes going? Because you're interacting. And it's not about you having the same experience and now wanting to convince everybody else to have that experience. Everyone at all times will have this experience. Everyone will always have more dominantly question vibration on something and more dominantly answer vibration, and some will ask themselves from question vibration, and some will get into the asking from the place of ease and satisfaction. In other words, those contexts that you have going on, those stirred up contexts that you're still dancing with and molding and shaping them the way they work for you, they're there to serve you, because they serve you at all times. Sometimes when you move away from them and experience something different, and then you want to shout through the roofs about it, and sometimes when you fall into them and generate for you more questions, for you to discover more and more. You see, all of it is at all times beneficial for your experience of creating.
That was stunning. Thank you. Just one last thing, very, very, very quickly. I was feeling a bit limited earlier. And, well, quite a bit limited. I was in that question vibration earlier, and then all of a sudden, my 2-year-old from I don't know where, he grabbed a book and he brought it to me. I don't know where he found it. I had not seen that book in probably a year, and he grabbed the Think and Grow Rich book and he handed it to me before taking his nap. He goes like, "Mommy, read this to me." Can you tell me my thought reflect back to me the broader perspective on that?
That means that
that little thing
your
that dance.
that means that your beautiful child in that place of ease and satisfaction was waiting for you to join there. It is not that your child brought you ease and satisfaction. It means that you had this question vibration active on this topic, and then at some point you started releasing it. And at that time, your 2-year-old, who is mostly in that place of ease and satisfaction and fun, could be that collaboration for you, that component of bringing you something as specific as that particular book to reflect the state where you're at. In other words, you soften up enough where you could see the solution. Solution not being in necessarily reading the book, but solution being in understanding that you can think and therefore grow rich.
Gorgeous. And it's funny because this morning when I was thinking about this idea of why I wanted to join you guys this month was expanding on thought, expansion of thought. So I looked up, when he handed me the book, I looked up Abraham Think and Grow Rich, and that's how they closed the segment. They said that Esther and Jerry, all their main intention was that just the expansion of the message, and it was just another synchronicity. So I'm so excited to have had this conversation. Thank you so very much to all of you, and I appreciate you so much.